You can get yourself a relatively clean, low-mile truck just like this one for around 13 grand. And they're not that hard to find. There's 2 of them alone at this dealership.
With that, here's an interesting question. Why does this first-gen Raptor that's completely rusted out with 225,000 miles have more than 8 times the level of interest at this dealership?
That is right. In the last 6 days that this Raptor has been online for sale, over 100 people have inquired to purchase it. This rusted out, cab-cornered, 225,000 mile, non-sunroof closing, first-gen V8 Raptor, more people are interested in purchasing than they are purchasing a clean 110,000 mile truck of the same generation.
Hello everyone and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Todd. My son Austin and I, we make all sorts of videos on all sorts of different cars. One thing we really enjoy doing on the channel is checking out cars that I dreamed about when I was younger, and the very same cars that turned my son into the car enthusiast he is today. You guys have also been showing a lot of interest in this videos, but there's still 97% of you that haven't hit the subscribe button. So do us a favor, show us some love, hit that subscribe button, and let's check out the Gen 1 Raptor. All right, no more wasting time. This is the Ford Raptor, the truck that flipped the off-road world upside down. Launched in 2010, Ford built it for one purpose: to eat desert trails alive. Under the hood, really the only engine that matters is the 6.2 liter V8 pumping out over 411 horsepower and 434 pound-feet of torque. Over 7 inches wider than a regular F150, rode on long travel Fox Racing shocks with 11 inches up front and 12 inches in the rear of travel, and came with 35-inch BFGs. It had skid plates, locking rear differential, hill descent control, basically a street legal Baja trophy truck you could buy right off the dealer lot. This thing doesn't just raise the bar, it absolutely made every single truck out there feel like it was stuck in first gear.
And here's the thing though, that was 15 years ago, and this Raptor still costs 35% of its original MSRP. Talk about a good buy, right? So why in the world does this truck that's 15 years old with this many miles and this bad a shape still drive so much interest, so much attention, and why do so many people still want to buy it? That's what we're here to find out.
It's really fun checking out a truck from Minnesota. That's because of the salt. That's the big talking point. So you're gonna see the weak body points in today's video. Some of the major points of concern when it comes to the body are, we have a very good example right here. We're gonna go through those right now. Starting up front, you can see that the steel bumper is rusted out. There's a lot of pitting from rock chips over the years. Those rock chips have turned into rust now current day.
Even the roof is not safe from those rock chips. As you can see, some big rocks took off some paint and started bubbling up the actual roof right in front of the sunroof here.
And as you move around to the side, the front fenders are actually holding up really well. When you start opening the doors of the Raptor, you might be fooled up front here because you would think that the cab corners and the rocker panels are really solid. But if you look down underneath there, you will see on the driver's side that this rocker panel is essentially completely rusted out. One of the biggest areas of concern is in the back door area where that cab corner is. Now on both the driver and passenger side on this 225,000 mile example, you can see that at some point you're going to have somewhere to throw your M&Ms down through the floor because this thing's going to be completely rotted through in a few more years. Now looking right in front of our wheel well arch in the back, we're starting to see some not only paint fading off of there, but some rust underneath that paint fading. Just kind of be thinking anywhere that a rock can hit or come off the tire is an area I would be looking at as an area of concern.
Here's what's really crazy to me though. Even though that body is so rusty, if we lay under here and actually look at the solid structure of this truck, the frame is super clean. I don't see any rust other than some super minor surface rust on the actual frame of this truck. The Fox shocks do appear to be original. Granted, I can't prove it. And they're not that bad. Like, they're very rusty. They're ready to be replaced. But in reality, if these are the original shocks in here, I am kind of astonished. I would 100% trust this truck frame for easily another 200,000 miles if this is how it's holding up.
Going around back here, the Raptor's holding up fairly well. Other than that steel bumper, just like up front, you can start to see some rust forming there. When you open the tailgate and start inspecting around back here, everything actually looks really darn solid. There's not much rust there at all.
Now that we know some of the weak points in the body, let's go ahead and pop the hood, take a peek at the 6.2 liter V8, and let's do a full deep dive into everything on the Raptor's powertrain.
Once again, if you happen to be someone that has that 5.4 of those early 2010 Raptors, well, congratulations if you have not had any issues yet. Find some wood to knock on because those issues are coming, or you should buy a lottery ticket. There's something there if you haven't had issues with that 5.4. It's known to have tremendous issues. The 6.2 essentially shared a lot of its foundation from the Super Duties. And what's interesting that I can share with you guys about that is we have a whole fleet of these things in our construction company. So a lot of 6.2 gas motors that we put tons of miles on, and we have had some complete engine failures. Now, this isn't the same engine completely. It's got different crankshafts and camshafts. The Raptor's engine is tuned more for high RPMs, where the F250 is tuned for that low-end torque and whatnot. But same foundation, a lot of the same heart of the motor, so to speak. Now, we have had some of the same engine failures on our fleet F250s that you can have on the F150 Raptor. Things such as a spring breaking, some timing chain issues, and essentially they have the same symptoms: rough idle, rough start, potential stalling, loss of power, misfires. So those generic troubleshooting things or noise items you should be listening for could be either one of the two, we'll call it major engine fail points. At the same time, all of those fail points for us in our fleet have happened after 200,000 miles. Also, just talking about F250s here for a second, just because it's the same heart of the motor, we've had many of those trucks 250, 260, 270,000, some of those of which are plow trucks for us on the original owner, and we just are on the original motor, and we just cannot stop them. We can't get them to break.
And here's what's even best about this engine, right? You can walk into your local parts store and get just about anything for it right off of the shelf. Not only that, but it's intuitive to work on. There's a ton of space under the hood here. There's a ton of videos online and on YouTube. So it makes this powertrain just awesome in that sense. And then this 6.2 liter is actually paired to Ford's in-house developed 6-speed transmission, the 6R80. Now, this transmission is known to be actually very reliable, very robust. It can have some issues if you're not up to date on your fluids. Recommend changing every 30 to 60,000 miles. And its biggest weak point is heat. You have to make sure that it stays cool. Otherwise, if it overheats, it could potentially fail. However, there is not really a ton of issues with the transmission, not a ton of issues with the engine. It really is just such a robust, durable powertrain, and I think that's a big reason why these are so desired. Now, you could get the 6.2 in the F150, however, it's very uncommon. It's almost more common to find it inside of a Raptor than you're going to have finding it in an F150.
We are going to make our way towards the interior, but first there's a few more mechanical things we really need to make sure you are aware of. The first one being the four-wheel drive system, not Raptor specific, but that vacuum system there, that can experience a lot of issues. The second one being, which we can tell from the history on this Raptor, has been addressed at least twice, one recently and once back in 2016, is the steering system. So the power steering system can have complete failures there, and by the history, it looks like this one has experienced it twice in its 225,000 miles, if that shows you anything about a design flaw there. Now, let's make our way to the inside of the Ford Raptor. When you walk up to the Raptor, you can't help but notice the SVT badging on the wheels, SVT on the top of the shocks, and that 6.2 liter big, huge emblem on the door. It just reminds you, even today in 2025, that you're getting into something special. Now, when I get into the truck here, there's that start of what used to be a red stripe around the steering wheel that, you know, it makes you feel like you're in something special again. And also SVT behind the gauge cluster on the tachometer there. Now, you feel like you're in something special right off the bat. The seats have a little bolstering. You have your SVT auxiliary switches. You also have that Raptor logo in the back of the seat there. The interior is actually holding up very, very well. Again, in this 225,000 mile example, I'm actually really impressed. There's just some minor seat wear on the driver's seat, and obviously the previous owners here loved putting their hand on the top of the steering wheel because you can see that wear. But as far as everything in the center console, all your touch points, they are holding up extremely well. It's quite remarkable.
I gotta make sure I don't cut my leg on the rust on the way into the back seat, but there's a few things I want to touch on that my dad didn't bring up that was just plain old cool in 2014. Now, my best memory of the first gen V8 Raptor was actually Need for Speed Most Wanted, the second one. I always picked the Raptor. I'd go get in these big police chases, drive this thing around. Just the big red one was my favorite. I loved the Raptor with the cool decal down the side of the bed. Just such a sweet truck that has so much nostalgia in my generation because it was the first truck that had this off-road presence on the scene, and it is just so cool. And I have so many great memories of playing games or randomly seeing one on the road and just how cool they are. And one of the things that still sticks out to me today is it was one of the first trucks that had like a big display on the center. You know, it was all like luxury cars that had those at this time, but seeing a truck with heated and cooled seats, seeing a truck with that big display with an off-road setting with auxiliary switches, that was just so unique and so cool. And it's still something today that just feels so awesome, flipping those tactile buttons. It's just something that will always be amazing to me. Now the back seat of this thing still has unbelievable amounts of legroom back here, just ridiculous. You could never have an issue fitting something in the back seat of this vehicle. And I don't think the previous owner ever sat in the back seat. It's very comfortable back here. And quite honestly, at all four corners, I can't believe how well these seats have held up. Even the driver's seat has very minimal wear on it. However, the first thing that did fail in here is the sunroof, which the dealership, this is at Apple Autos, if you're interested in purchasing it, is working on fixing. That's going to be repaired for the new owner. But it's just so crazy to me how nice this truck still is on the inside, having this many miles on it. It's pretty incredible. 225,000 miles. Whoa. And she's still got it. Sounds very healthy, has all that get up and go so quick compared to any other truck from this generation, and it just feels cool sitting behind the wheel of this thing. You got those big vents coming off of the hood. It feels huge, it feels wide, it feels special. You get the big SVT up in your gauge cluster. I floored it for about 4 seconds, and my estimated miles until empty went down by about 15. It's just hilarious how cool this truck is to me. I even love this old map. It looks so retro, but it looks just so cool. It has that tactile feeling. Everything about this truck just feels cool still in today's day and age. It doesn't matter that it's old. It doesn't matter that it has so many miles on it. I still feel like I'm in something special, and these cooled seats are still working flawlessly. I can't describe to you how good they feel in my back right now because it's like 100% humidity. It's just miserable outside, and this is so awesome. This is just so great. Now, in reality, we heard a few suspension clunks that are a little bit out of the ordinary. Maybe it needs a tie rod, maybe it needs a ball joint, a wheel bearing, whatever, who cares, right? All basic off the shelf parts. It did have a little bit of a weird sound when turning the wheel when it was in four-wheel drive. The sunroof that wasn't working, we just pressed the button and it works now. So I mean, this thing practically just fixes itself as you go. It really is just such a cool truck though. Like it's still fun. Even with this many miles on it, it feels special. You still get those people that have the nostalgia, that know what this is, that have the memories and whatever behind them, that still look at this truck as you're going down the road like, hey, that's a Raptor, right? It still turns heads even with this many miles on it, even being rusty. Just people have such cool memories, or think, hey, I read that Motor Trend magazine when this thing came out. It still just has that element of fun that you don't get from a standard pickup truck from the same generation. Genuinely one of the coolest trucks that has ever been manufactured to this day, and it is disappointing to me that the only V8 available is now in the 3rd generation Raptor that's out now. However, here's what's really crazy, just to put into perspective. The MSRP on the Raptor that we're looking at right now is between $37,000 and $38,000. The option to put a V8 on the new Raptor, so to go from the Raptor to the Raptor R, is a $38,000 option. So it costs the exact same amount as this truck was new to purchase a V8 in 2025. Wow, Isn't that unbelievable?
That is absolutely incredible. Another thing that's interesting is now you can go into multiple different dealerships. You can go into Toyota's dealership and their TRD lineup. They have Fox suspension on them, or the Jeep Gladiator, Mojave, or however that's pronounced. You can get Fox suspension on that.
It started an era of vehicles that we see all across the entire fleet of new cars you can purchase.
This was literally the first one. It is still legendary to buy today, 15 years later from that first model year release. But there's so much competition current day now. Just about every manufacturer on the full-size scene has something that tries to touch the Raptor's capability. And that even spread to the mid-size truck segment. So the Tacomas and Raptors, Raptor Ranger that is, as well as Chevy and GMC's products. Everyone's got an off-road rig, and it all started with this right here, the 1st gen Raptor.
And I think the reason that these are still so desirable is every other vehicle that has ever tried to touch or compete with this Raptor, yes, they have gotten better off-road, they've gotten better and more capable and whatever, but none of them have had powertrains that are as robust as the 1st generation Raptor.
Very true.
we've gotten 3.5 EcoBoosts and everything here and newer. And our other competitors, we don't have anything that has a V8 in it. We have the 3.6 Pentastar over in Chrysler, right? So this is the most reliable and robust powertrain you can get in something so rally inspired. Now it is unfortunate that they rust out so easily, and I personally I wish that I was in a position when this truck was new to purchase it. Because just think, if you were to purchase this truck new for 38 grand right off of the show floor, you were to drive it 225,000 miles, and you were to still get 35% of what you paid back, I mean, that's an unbelievable deal.
Yeah,
it really is.
But it takes us to the ultimate question. Here it is, $14,000, completely rusted out, 225,000 miles. Would you still buy this truck today with all that in mind?
Man, that's a really tough question. It is, because I know that the frame and the powertrain has it left in it, but this body needs thousands and thousands of dollars worth of work to make it an enjoyable winter, right? You might get old calves in the back seat.
Might start getting drafty in there soon.
I don't know. I personally think I would struggle with that. I think I would rather purchase something like the F-150 XLT sitting right back over there that's, you know, kind of clean, more rust-free, some lower miles on it. But it's hard because I know that powertrain won't last as long as this one. And rust-free ones now are still over $20,000, $23,000, $24,000, $25,000
yeah, holy crap,
for these Raptors. There's actually a local one for sale near us with 135,000, 140,000 miles on it for like 25, 26 grand. That's crazy.
That is crazy. You're getting into the range of a starting price of a brand new F-150, just bare bones, obviously. But anyways,
sure.
Thank you for joining us today on Performance on Wheels. It was super fun checking out the first gen Raptor. Comment down below. Are you still going to pick one of these up today?